Hello, my social anti-socials. My name is Ginsu. Welcome to my personal public diary. Today's diary entry is yet again an audio version because I cannot afford to be in front of the camera right now. So the last diary entry I did talk about how I'm currently having a breakout, but it has gotten a lot worse. So I'm currently in the process of nursing it and trying to clear it out. I really do not know what caused the breakout on my face, but I'm working hard to clear it out. Such is life for somebody who lives with genetic acne. Some days our skin is clear as day, and some days we have a little bit of breakouts, and some days the skin goes ham and we just totally have a massive breakout that is horrific. And I am in the scale of horrific right now, so you'll see me on camera when my skin is a lot better. But anyways, that's besides the point. That's not what this diary entry is about my skin. No, in today's diary entry I will be talking about my love for music. So this diary entry is my ode to music. Years ago, I used to have a blog called I Am Hidden Poetry. In my earlier years, when I published publicly my poetry, it was back when Google used to offer blog hosting services. There was something called Blogspot, and I created my first blog on there. And so whenever I would write something and publish something, I used to send my friends links to my pieces. And a lot of people loved how I wrote. I loved how I wrote. It was a very cool way for me to express myself. I've written for years, it's not something I just began in my early teen years or my early 20s. It's something I've always done since I was a kid. My love for literature has had a big play in my life. I've always written, either poetry or script writing, storytelling. Those are things that have always been a part of me, or music, writing music as well, writing songs, which is something a lot of you guys will get to experience down the line in the near future. But anyway, and so when I used to give my friends links to my poetry blog and my pieces, one of my friends did suggest that how about I write about music, like an ode dedicated to music. She had known how much I loved music and how much music was a great part of my life. And I intended to, I really intended to, but it took me such a long time to get that out there. And something very tragic happened to me. I got in a very toxic relationship, which essentially killed my creativity. I cannot explain, put it in words, what exactly happens to us as creatives. Different things vary. Sometimes you experience a great pain that really moves you to create, and sometimes the great pain you experience messes with your creativity. And in that year, the bad relationship I got into, and I was going through a horrific breakup, it hindered my ability to write. And I hadn't written for so long until, as of recent, when I started putting together a collection of semi. Today, it just kind of came to my mind, and I remembered my friend's words that, how about I write about my love for music? And as much as I haven't written that piece yet, I think I can elaborate a little bit about my journey with music and what music means to me. I'm going to touch on the most recent occurrence, and then I'll take you guys through the journey of my experience with music and the most monumental moments in my life and things like that. So back in 2020, I really was going through a quarter life crisis. It was the coming of age for me. Quarter life crisis was happening. I was being confronted with a lot of things, a lot of introspection, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of recognizing a lot of things about myself and people around me, as well as life as it was at the time. And a part of the introspection and the conversation I had with myself was things or people I valued, and things or people I did not value, or things and people that did not value me. And amongst these very tough conversations came about my love and hate for music. I say love and hate because I, throughout my journey, did not only become a creator of, or somebody that is in love with the music via consuming it, but I became somebody who is involved in the background of music as well. And so everybody knows the business side of things can get very tedious, very stressful, and such were my experiences at the time. So I was very conflicted about my position in this love affair that I have with music. I was very dispositioned, and at the time as well, I was going through a very tough time. Nobody that has gone through the quarter life crisis will tell you it's an easy thing. How you rise above determines who you're going to be in this lifetime as an adult. And I had to, it was a period of realization and actualization, which can be very stressful. And at that point, I was convinced that I am close to death, and maybe this is it for me again. I have talked about how at the age of 22, I got my semicolon tattoo and what it meant. And yeah, but the years while I was going through my quarter life crisis, I got my other tattoo, which is the musical clef with the heartbeat metronome on it. Revisiting the meaning behind this tattoo was I looked around me at the time, and I also assessed my experiences in this lifetime, and I noticed a pattern. The pattern that I noticed was that in as much as I have experienced quite a lot of things, there are about two things or mediums or realms I have clung onto, and those have always managed to give me life, to heal me, and to befriend me, and they understood me well. And that is both God and music. Throughout my teenage years, I have lived with depression, clinically diagnosed with a mood disorder. However, majoring in a depressive disorder, and it's been quite hard. And I'm not a person that's very good with people. I do have my times where I'm social, and then there are large amounts of times when I'm not social, which is why I refer myself to as social, antisocial. But however, during those periods, I found that the only way I could relate or connect with the world was through music. And music was such a powerful, expressive medium that kind of understood what I was either feeling or thinking, and just really did not have the words to articulate to the next person, or even in my written poetry form. And so in that way, it was how I grew to value music greatly. I've always been a kid that could sing. I've always been a kid that could dance. These are things that I did in my youthful years, younger years rather. What am I saying? I'm still in my prime of my youth. But these are the things that I did growing up. I sang at church. I danced at church. I sang outside church. I danced outside church. I rapped at some point. I wrote music. I made beats at some point. These are the things that have always been a part of me, and I've always been a performer at heart. And so music has just always been that realm or medium or frequency that I could connect and find pure expression that understood me. And actually was friend as well, because a large period of my life, I've always felt very lonely, very misunderstood, very alienated, just not the kind of kid that would be fitting anyway. I stood out a lot, like a sore thumb, which can be a very lonely experience, but I found refuge in music a lot. So now checking back into my quarter life crisis, yeah, I was really reflecting on that and seeing that, as much as I've experienced people, as much as I've experienced some things, the only thing that I could hold on to that has truly been friend, that has truly been understanding, truly been companion, truly been healing, truly given me life, has always been music. I've gone through a lot where I damn near lost my sanity. I've gone through a lot of hurt by other people, whether friends, whether family, especially romantic relationships. I've had a lot of terrible experiences when it comes to that, and very greatly traumatizing. And I've spent a great deal of my youth trying to find spaces and people where I fit, where I'm just right. And I've never, till date, experienced that, to a point where I had to reconcile with myself that I understand that I do not have a place of fitting, and I stand out and I'm a bit odd, and to be okay with that being odd. However, where I find a place of understanding has always been music. This is not to disregard the friendships I've made along the way and have also gotten to keep well into my adulthood. I've made remarkable friendships that contribute to who I am today. Great counsel, people that I look up to, people that inspire me, people that I go to for advice and guidance, and people that call me into order where they feel like I am going down a route that is not necessarily great for me. So I do have those kind of people in my life, people that I call away, a text away. They're not necessarily around me all the time because, again, they're a bit older than me. They also have their own lives and families, but there are people that are constantly within reach. That is, my ode to music does not dispel that, but it took a long while. It took a long while before I could find these people. I found them well in my young adult years. But before then, I would experience relationships that were just not really beneficial to me in any type of way, that were not nurturing. That's the word I'm looking for. That were not nurturing. That where even if I'm standing amongst the group or it's a one-on-one, I still feel pretty much displaced or misunderstood. I've never been a person that's quite good with social cues. And my emotional intelligence has had to develop quite a lot over the years. Not a lot of things that I just would not connect with or was not accustomed to. I still remember a very odd occurrence. This is besides the narrative, just to double into one occurrence to showcase just how bad my EQ was back then. It has developed, it has gotten better. It's not perfect, but it has gotten better. Like in high school, there was a guy who I don't know. I think he'd seen me at a chick dance and he hadn't really paid attention to me much. And thereafter, he started paying attention to me much, and he'll come to me and he'll talk to me. And I'm not one person that acts proud at all. I do like conversing with people, believe it or not. but it is the approach as well as if I feel safe. If I don't feel safe, I will not engage, and I scare away a lot. In fact, if you are the male species, you're most likely, I will definitely ignore you if you're a man. Walking down the street, I ignore. But at that time we were kids, and in high school, I'd seen him around. I knew he was. We'd been involved in productions together when we were acting at school. So I was a bit familiar with him, but hadn't really had conversations like that with him. So he started talking to me. I do not really remember what was the situation, but or what really happened, but he gave me a hug. And I really did not know how to give him a hug or how to respond, because that was a very odd experience for me, because I hadn't really had to give anybody a hug as far as I remember. And he was a bit taken aback. And he's like, "Why do you hug like that?" And I'm like, I don't know. How am I supposed to hug? So he showed me how to give a hug. And so that's how I learned how to give a hug. But the point is, I really had bad EQ for a long time. It took me quite a long time to know how to navigate my spaces through people. But however, and so for that reason, I would feel very misunderstood and not quite relate to people. But I felt very understood by music. Yeah. And so that is my background and my attachment to music a lot. It's either music or God, prayer. A lot of prayer. I pray a lot, and if I don't pray, I tend to feel like I'm losing my mind, or I feel like I'm leading down the wrong path. I do have conversations with myself at odd times, and prayer, like prayer is like a conversation with myself. I'm not necessarily religious like that. When I mean religious, I mean like I don't subscribe strictly to one religious community. I grew up in a Christian community. I grew up and I got groomed within the Catholic and Pentecost community. So those are principles ingrained in me. And I do know how to teach and to learn within that context. But I'm a person that also in general takes from other people too in their teachings. I can learn from the Islamic community, from the Hindus, from the Buddhists, from anybody, even the African community, African religious community. I learn. I'm an overall spiritually led person, as long as it's a principle that promotes humanity and goodness in us to emulate and to extend to the next person. That's what I'm about. So yeah, prayer or music. And so during this period of my quarter life crisis, I was coming to that confrontation that I really hadn't had people like that, and or things like that. But what has always been my stronghold has always been God or music. And at that time, like I said, I felt like I was so close to death, and I was holding for dear life of me on music and God. And I spent a great time in isolation. But however, whatever would be communicating and sounding to me would be music or me praying a lot. And so I just decided one day that I am going to get on my body what reminds me, what gives me life, what pushes me to continue in this lifetime, and what brings me joy. Because whenever I listen to music, I feel such great joy. I feel relief. And sometimes even when I'm sad and I lack words to express how I feel, or I just don't know how I'm feeling at the time, a lot of indifference, and I need something that could invoke my emotions accurately, it would be music that would do that. And so yeah, that's what I did. I went to go get this tattoo. I went to the tattoo parlor at the time with somebody who was my friend before we dated, before he became my boyfriend. I went to the tattoo parlor and I got it on my arm, my right arm. And so this tattoo on my right arm, that's what it means. It means music gives me life. And so on both my arms, the other one I have a semicolon to remind me to continue with life. And on the other right arm sits what gives me life, which is music. And music comes from God. Music is a gift from God. We can also go back to, I don't know, highlights in my life where music has been a great deal a part of my life. I come from a very musical family. My half brother's a DJ. My half sister sings. My younger sister sings. She's not a singer, but she has a beautiful voice. I sing. And like music is a great part and deal of our family. It's just that, however, though, we are a family of academics, and that part of us haven't really been explored like that, except my half brother, who really insisted on it, and he's a DJ, a radio DJ in my country. Besides having to run my dad's companies. But yeah, I don't know if he's still continuing with that, but it's a real thing that he was, a whole public figure. And my uncle at some point also, I remember, he went into DJing. But I still remember we would visit my maternal grandma's home, where my uncle was also residing at. Back in the day, used to be the radios that you would insert cassettes and play in. And when the radio would play music, my uncle used to insert cassettes in there and dub songs on the tapes. So these radios used to have these functions that you could record what was broadcasting at that time on the tapes. And so my uncle used to create a collection of tapes, and it would be different kind of music, but predominantly at that time used to be Kwaito music that was very prevalent and very popular. And so I would be exposed to that kind of music a lot. And at home, my dad was also a very musical person. Hip hop, that's where I would be exposed to hip hop, funny enough, because I mean, he's my dad. One wouldn't expect to be exposed to hip hop from an old man. But yeah, hip hop, R&B, Kwaito, and reggae music. That's when I would get influenced, and was I still remember the first time I saw UB40. I was like, these people are not black, you know. But yeah, your Benning Spear, Bob Marley, UB40, so much. Like there was different kinds of music, and even what you call Afrobeat, Fela Kuti. This is music I grew up on. And with my uncle, the Kwaito, you know, at the time there used to be your Hathama Fugati and the Click, Nestam, and then Chomi was only as of recent in the 2000s. But back then there used to be a whole clique with Zombo and them. So that was my background, you know. And with hip hop, I still remember the first hip hop song I heard and I liked was Jay-Z's song, It's a Hard Knock Life, alright. And you know, I like that. I think because I was a kid and I heard kids on a chorus, you know. That was so fascinating for me. You can hear my voice getting excited because I'm recollecting all these memories from Jay-Z. And I will go on to grow up a little bit like Eminem. I was an Eminem stan, okay, guys. I was an Eminem stan so much that in my early teen years, when Mixit came into the picture, I nicknamed myself Miss Haley. If you guys know Eminem, you know he's got a daughter called Haley. So I was that much of an M stan that I call myself Miss Haley. That was my Mixit name at the time. I loved M. Funny enough, all the kids that loved Eminem, y'all were pretty deranged kids. I was a deranged kid, but I loved M, and he was that for me in my childhood, well into my teen years. And then I fell in love with Missy Elliott a lot. Missy Elliott was the first female rapper I loved so much, because that was the time of my era when I was young. I'm a 90s baby, so these were the times that these people were booming. I love Missy Elliott a lot, your Timberlands. And then after Missy, I was fascinated till date. I still adore Lil Kim. You guys can visit my previous diary entries. You can go check my record of diary entries that Lil Kim recently liked my Instagram post, and I was over the moon because fangirl moment, you know. There's somebody I adored since I was a kid. You know, I loved Lil Kim so much. And yeah, and you know, the times where Lights Us Up was coming in as well down the line. I wasn't really a Biggie fan, so I didn't really follow Biggie's journey until later on when I got older to look and learn about the hip hop moguls and stuff like that. But I was a great hip hop follower. Snoop Dogg. I don't know why a kid was listening to that, but I was. You know, and then thereafter, as I grew old, I got to learn a couple more people. But at the time, your producers Timbaland, I loved, and Timbaland used to double also into R&B. Because you know, when you're kids and you're getting taken to school, it's a school joyride, and the adult taking at the time they're playing that R&B or Aaliyah. You know, this is the music I was exposed to at the time. I think it was right about the 2000s when Kwaito transitioned a little bit more, still getting popular more. And I think it was during the eras of Jem Ailey, and I was then exposed to your Pitch Black Afro. Oh my god, I'm remembering all these things. I love Pitch Black Afro, guys. He fascinated me. Like, yo, this guy raps so quickly. What's going on? He was so fascinating, and to me, it was a cool gimmick. I'm like seeing this big hair with tooth gap, you know. And at the time, Pro Kid was popular as well. Oh, and you know, these are the things, and these are the artists I was exposed to and I was growing up and listening to and fascinated about. I still remember in my primary school there was a girl who I found so cool. She was so cool, okay? And this girl could rap, guys. Like, she was so fascinating that we started even hosting our little MC circles. You know, trying to learn how to rap like her. She could rap everything, you know, from your Cisco verses, you know, to your R. Kelly verses. And she was so cool. She used to even do the R. Kelly braids with the zigzags. And yo, that was the time when we were growing up in primary school, crazy business. Like, hip hop was the thing for us, you know, we'd have host MCs. And then we were so lost in the sauce of hip hop. We used to even host our own basketball tournaments. We used to have girls versus boys. And so, like, the culture of hip hop would be ingrained in me like that as a youngin'. And how we used to dress also, like you're wearing a cap but you're twisting it, you know, you're not, it's not a cap straight on, it's a cap on the sides. You'd wear your hair bands, you know, those gym bands that you would wear, but now you got those. Like, it was so crazy. And even the sneakers that we'll get, you know, your retro Adidas sneakers, like, you know, the culture of hip hop has always been something that's always been a part of my life. And I would grow up, then move on to participating in church where we would dance, your spiritual dances. This is not where the culture of dancing would come. But me, hip hop kid, no. At the time, there was a group called J Squad. Eh. Y'all know, if you know this era, there was a song called Amazing Grace by J Squad. Oh my God, I'm crumping to the Lord in church. If you can't do hip hop in the streets, you can do it for the Lord too, you know? That's how broad of a spectrum and accommodating hip hop was, you know? So used to come in church to perform. There'll be different kinds of dances. There'll be spiritual dances where it's more of a contemporary dancing. And then there'll be a time where people like me would show up for the skills. And I befriended another girl who was just like me from church. We rap, we dance, and we crump to the Lord. Glory to God for giving us something back. Glory to God for giving us something back. Some of you might genuinely remember this. And then there was also another version, Amazing Grace. Next thing you know, it's a whole crump song. Yeah, that's what we dance to in church, crumping for the Lord, you know. And then we'll join the church choir where we'll sing. There'll be somebody playing a chord, the piano playing the chords. Not even the piano as such, but like your keyboards, your MIDI keyboards. You know, so in church, we don't know the difference. You call a MIDI keyboard a piano. But yeah, and we'll do that even at school as well. I used to be in the school choir. There's no school I was not part of that I did not sing, only except one though, because I don't remember. I don't. My memory is a bit faint about that. But every school I've went to, there was an aspect of music and arts very alive, and I'll be a part of that. Be part of the school choir. Be part of the kids that dance. Would have talent shows. You know, I was a part of that everywhere I go. Every school I went to, even the last high school I went to, would have talent shows, and I would dance. You know, perform for the crowds, and that was just who I am. Because when you look at me, when you meet me, with my social antisocialness and my keeping to myself personality, that also got very, very much worse as I got older. You wouldn't say, but the minute I step on a stage, I perform. Do I have to act? I'm gonna act. Do I have to recite something? I'm gonna do it. Do I have to sing? I'm gonna do it. Do I dance? I'm gonna do it. You know. At heart, I'm a performer. I'm a creative in every aspect. And that's been my journey with music, just loving performing and singing. And there was a point where I also started learning how to create my own beats. I download software on my little notebook and learn how to chop and screw beats and also how to sample beats. And taking aspects like I did everything that entails music. I've done it before, and that was just really my journey, and I loved it so much. But because coming from my family, they were like, child, you better go to school. You're not going to be that if you're not going to school. And so I started searching for ways for me to get involved in music without necessarily showing at home that I'm involved with music, because it was kind of like a taboo thing. Because, hey, what am I doing? I got to go to school and concentrate on these odds, you know. And I still remember, I used to do a lot. There was a period where a group called Bug Fam was very popular, and there were about 2 kids from Bug Fam at school that were part of the group but we went to school with, and they were brilliant dancers and would audition and to dance together and stuff like that. Brilliant people. And I befriended them, but I still remember they will host, like, I think it was like national rehearsals and things like that. And another group was Freeze Frame, where they used to vogue a lot, like freaking cool. And I reach out to these groups to try and go for auditions, but my mom would say no. I would get the audition dates and I needed to show up, but my mama would say no, guys. Oh, vibe kill. So that's what really pushed me. Like, I need to find a way to be involved in music without showing at home that I'm involved in music, and that's how I winded up in the background of music. And yeah, I started working with artists, and I became who I am right now. And I later down the line founded my company and all these things. Moving forward, great journey as well. I got to learn a lot. Another era that really greatly influenced me was the 2009s. 2008 to 9, yes, when Young Money came into the picture. Oh, please, we need to credit Young Money. We got to credit Birdman and Lil Weezy for that, because that era was a great golden era for hip-hop, and you do see their influences till date. I was a huge Young Money fan. Like, you need to understand, as much as I love Lil Kim, and that was the era in 2009 where there was a beef between Lil Kim and Nicki Minaj. Oh, it caused such a row, okay? And yeah, we were like, who's this new chick? And you know what? for some sake, I forgot about Lil Kim. Okay, because she hadn't been releasing for some time. I think at the time she was convicted. I think she was in jail at that time, or she had just come out of jail. But she hadn't released for a long time. So Nicki started to boom, from her Beam Me Up Scotty mixtapes to, I mean, the original Beam Me Up Scotty. I don't mean the one that's out now. That's not the correct one. Okay. To the Bobby mixtape, Bobby World mixtape, and then Lil Wayne too had mad mixtapes. Lil Wayne had so many mixtapes, guys. Oh my God, and Drake. So these were the top three leaders of Young Money at the time, really booming. Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki, they had us by chokehold, or rather, they had me by chokehold. Okay, I want to revisit some of the teenage memories because of Young Money briefly after this. But yeah, Nicki Minaj, I fell in love with Nicki a lot. I listened to her Bobby World mixtapes. Being up Scotty mixtapes so much that the era of the Harajuku Barbie, all her personalities, we knew them all. And at the time also, I think it was well into 2011, yeah. So I was in a boarding school at the time. There was a girl in high school in the boarding school who loved Nicki so much, and I related to her because she loved Nicki too. She used to play Nicki mixtapes on her laptop, and I'll play mine, and we'd exchange music. It was a beautiful thing, and that was when I learned of the hot new hip hop website, and I used to go there and deadpeef.com and search for mixtapes, and through that era, because I was so concentrated on discovering a Nicki tape or album or Lil Wayne tape or Drake tape, that's when I would get exposed to more other rappers, and I'll bump into many more that I'd love. And sometimes some of the moguls that I didn't necessarily give attention to when I was younger, I got to concentrate on, and I would learn a lot about Mos Def. I mean, at the time I used to watch him in movies, but and I just knew that he was something important in hip hop, but I didn't until I got older and Tali Kweli. And at the time I was in my early 15, 16 when I started revisiting that part of the history, 17, and learning about Tali Kweli, Mos Def, the Black Star mixtape, and learning to love Erykah Badu anew, and all these things, I got exposed to. But it was a pit hole. It was a pit hole. Do you call it a pit hole? But you get what I'm saying. Where I was exploring Young Money, but then I crossed into revisiting the modules I never got to learn about, and learning or discovering new artists as well. And Young Money was the big thing and continued to be the big thing for a long time. Your Nicki, your Drake, your Lil Wayne, and then the other artists, your Tyga, your Gada Gada. And I still remember from Young Money there was a guy I loved so much, and I wished his career boomed. Son of a Gun. Oh, darling, I loved his Son of a Gun tape, Corey Guns, and he had a song 6 foot 7 foot with Lil Wayne at some point. But I loved Corey so badly. I really wished his career boomed. I don't know what happened because his dad was a mogul. He's a historical figure in the hip hop world, but I loved his son. I appreciate him a lot. Son of a Gun tape was beautiful. You got your Chanel, Cupid's got a gun, and he shot me with it. Oh my gosh, guys! And the Young Money tape was crazy, with your Lil Twist and now, Lil Twist and his I forgot the other young one. For me at the time were like verses to, I don't know if you guys even still remember the era where Diggy Simmons was coming up. And there was this group of kids. They even had a song called Mrs. Right. Where is Mrs. Right? I gotta see her. Oh, we used to go crazy about the song in high school with one of my friends. Like so much. But Young Money was a big deal and a huge part of my teenage years. So much that oh, being a teenager so stupid. At that time I befriended a group of guy friends. Let me put out there, I've always been the girl who befriended guys. I cannot for the life of me put a finger on it why, but I would have a few girlfriends, but most would be dudes. Till date I still have a lot of guy friends more than girlfriends, but I love women. I love women friends. It's just I used to tend to struggle a lot with women, but I'll click a lot with guys, and so with these guys we would have a rap group. And we had some other guy who was an up-and-coming rapper, and he had studio equipment to record, and we would go to his house and record. This was what I used to live in Laval. And there used to be like dance festivals. Every community would have like this tennis court. Yeah, and that's where all these tournaments will be hosted. The basketball tournaments, dancing tournaments. Guys, life was crazy with hip hop at the time. But yeah, I used to have this clique of guy friends, and I could say in our own right, we're pretty much our own Young Money. Okay, and at the time I was like the first lady of the group. Funny because none of us actually got to grow up to rap except the sibling of of one of the guys who was in the group, and he actually started out as a dancer. He used to dance, break dance, crop dance, what, and he grew up and he's a rapper, and I got to work with him. you know. It's crazy business, you know. And I grew up, and we both grew up, and he was a rapper, and I got to manage him, and I got to do his PR, and all these things. It's crazy how childhood influences make us who we are, and that's part of the era where Young Money happened. And yeah, we grew up, and none of us are rappers, but those that came after us sure did become rappers. But I became something in the music industry in my own right, and I will be continuing to be in my own right. I entered the scene as a rookie. I had a lot to learn. I was always a kid, very curious. I would ask a lot of questions, meet up different people, and because I was a very curious kid, people who were in higher positions than I was and were way older than me took interest in me a lot and would be like my coaches, my guidance, and would afford me certain opportunities to contribute towards great initiatives that are about artists in this country and composers. And I've been afforded a lot of privileges as a youngster to contribute towards this scape. And I'm forever grateful for that. And also, I'm proud of what I've contributed, the people I've gotten to know. My journey was not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes, and sometimes I mishandled people, sometimes people mishandled me, but it was all a learning curve, a growing journey. It was that kind of a journey, and I've achieved quite marvelous things. I've gotten to a point where I became a music journalist. At some point, I was afforded an opportunity, and I wrote for a magazine, and then went on to write for a music blog. And at some point, I interned as a publicist at a record label, and continued also to continue with my company, managing artists, being a publicist, getting involved in placement of productions, you know, so much more that I've done, running campaigns for certain albums, working with really incredible artists, big or small, foreign and local. And my favorite ones have always been the foreign ones, and it was always challenging to see how I can break artists in the market. Yeah, I feel like I've also given too much credit to American hip hop, but I've also been influenced by South African music a lot. In my late teen years also, I got to experience and be exposed to South African hip hop. And my earliest South African hip hop influence was Reason. And that's how I became a Reason stan. I love Reason so much till date. Like, I'm talking about Reason the Mess. I'm not talking about Caesar Alakayan. I will not get into that. I'm talking about Reason HD, okay? Reason the Mess, Reason Lebaka. That's who I fell in love with. So I don't know. At the time there was a song, Do It Like I Can. And he used to play on SABC2 a lot. I think it was during the times or right before, you know, your kids programs would play. And there was a time where SABC2 would play a couple of music videos before the next program starts. And I'd see this guy with this animated music video. You know, I really could not connect the fact that Reason was South African, because for me, music like that of that quality hadn't, I hadn't really associated it with South Africa at the time, because at that time, it was right before when Kasi MP3 was getting popular, and we just knew like locals uploading music, like niggas trying to rap and uploading their low quality content on there, and it's like, oh no, I'm not listening to this, is local, you know. So local wasn't appraised like that, but that exposed me to a new world, and so I was excited to see this person. I got to learn of him a bit, but it was right into my mid-high school years where I got reintroduced to Reason again, because I concentrated a lot on American hip hop. And also I still remember some of my earliest mid high school memories was when I learned of Gigi Lamaine. We used to go to the same school, and so I bumped into some of her mixtapes while I was still searching for the Nikki stuff. Like I said, it was a pit hole for me to discover a lot of things, and I was like, I really like this kid. We used to have like a computer center to go to in the boarding school, and somebody said to me, oh, you don't know her, you should see her every single day, she goes to school. I was like, what? And to me, like, Gigi was a big deal because she was like our Nicki Minaj. You need to understand that I appreciated Gigi Lamaine because to me, she was our local Nicki Minaj, okay? And I got to learn of her, and I've listened to her music and stuff like that. But anyway, fast forward, and I never really got exposed to much of her music after that, except later years when she had like that collaboration with Kulichana in them. And this was when I was now deep into South African music, learning more of South African hip hop. But it was in my mid-high school years where I got reintroduced to Reason again, and this was when I also got to learn of Ginger Trill. At the time, his name was Gingerbread Man, and my concentration was on Reason. This was when Bump the Cheese Up was playing. I think it was Bump the Cheese Up, or there was a song, but oh no, it's not Bump the Cheese Up, it's No Sleep. Yes, there was a No Sleep remix. And so this song was playing. I just collected it from somewhere. But I wasn't concentrating on Gingerbread Man. I'm sorry, bro, I wasn't. But you're my favorite thing right now. I wasn't. I was concentrating on Reason because I loved Reason so much, and I was still learning to to find my space and gravitate around South African hip hop and learning of Motif, the record label, and Do Me From The V. Do Me From The V. It's Do Me that raps. Oh, this guy. I just knew him the poetic times, and with the fridge and them, and I got to learn quite a lot. But at the time, reason was my concentration. One of my friends said, I had another guy friend I used to hang out with a lot, and he said to me, you need to concentrate on this guy. And he was making me pay attention to Gingerbread Man at the time, Ginger Troll now. And I listened to him, I was like, he's actually really dope too, And that's when I started following up a bit on them and learning of them until the end of my high school years. But then American hip hop was still very much predominantly part of my life. During those years also there was your Kuli China booming, Mtswako. I remember another kid we used to hang out with a lot and we went to the same classes with. He loved Kuli. And a lot of AKA was playing in the boarding school 24/7 when it came out, and I really got to appreciate it a lot. Was it a 365, 24/7, 365, something like that. I love the album. They're kind of really cool songs. I got to love, like, I forgot what they taught back in high school. Those were like youth anthems. And, now congratulate me at the time era. Like, AKA, we used to eat AKA day in and day out in the boarding school, guys. Yo, him and Cooley, yo. And then shortly after high school, there was the Casper Nyovest era, blah, blah, blah. That's taking me back to a Gingerbread Man and Reason. I got involved in some circles. And fast forward, I now got to work with these people. And it has been an amazing experience. I got to work with a Gingerbread Man. I got to work with many, many other artists. I can go on and mention many. But I really grew up on SA hip hop. SA hip hop, I grew very fond of it, very marvelous. There's so many people I got to befriend that are legends in their own right, that became brothers to me. I got to, at some point, befriend amazing rapper, amazing legend, Clapman, Captain Clapman. I got to learn of Mr. Beef, befriended Mr. Beef, and I first heard Beef with it on a Ginger Trill record, and I loved him. And then I heard him on a Reason album, and these are the people I befriended. So many, and I got to appreciate other producers and engineers, your big Muchinis, and there's so many people I got exposed to, got to converse with, got to work with, got to befriend and acquaint. I feel like SA hip hop, not only did I become a fan of, but it groomed me, because these people became my brothers. They became people I worked with. They became my mentors. They became people I look up to, people I got to experience. There's so many people, producers in the back end, I got to, till date, I'm still exposed to, and I appreciate their craft a lot and their contributions in our landscape, and record label execs that I befriended in so many aspects. It did not just end with SA, it expanded to even other scapes of the African continent, the African diaspora. I got to link with people, the Nigerian scape, Angolan scape, the UK scape, the US scape. I got to really link with a lot of people in the background and in production and in the artists up front, people I befriended, people I worked with, and just the appreciation of hip hop as a culture. And now I'm growing and expanding, and I will be exploring other scapes of hip hop. People are even I'm such a love of hip hop. I've explored even the Asian scapes, and these are the scapes I'm now exploring right now, and I've connected with some people, appreciated their craft, communicated with them, learning their language, learning their culture. It has not been easy, but it's doable, and I'm doing it. And it's just been, I don't know, man, like, who would have thought, like, music would afford me so much of experience, very rich experience in culture, in connectivity, in creativity, in business, and even in spirituality. So that's what hip hop did for me. It all began with these little building blocks. But SA hip hop, I know it's getting a lot of flack, a lot of disrespect, and I feel like people need to check themselves, because a lot of what we have currently is all due to South African hip hop. And South Africa is the leading music economy in the African diaspora. That's why a lot of artists will fly out to come here, because we have a very open, lucrative music economy here. And they will do stuff here, shoot stuff here, record here, whatever they need to get going for their business in music, they do it here. So I think people need to check themselves. And even anybody that gets to listen to this moving forward, that afford hip hop some respect, afford it some respect. But we have a lot right now. The festivals you see right now, that's all hip hop. South African artists used to struggle to get bookings. They used to struggle to even get the respect and even quality of performance. Foreigners used to get prioritized, and we know another controversial act that we appreciate, that really pushed this envelope, was AKA, the late AKA. That guy, give him his flowers, because we are where we are today because he was a marvelous player in the game who pushed the envelope, controversial as he was, but he pushed the promoters to pay respect to our acts. The tour culture, the hosting big festivals, Casper did that. the whole talk about working with brands, having brand partnerships, music videos being shot. Your Monday do biz with the music videos did that. And that all these things stem from hip hop. So I think SA hip hop needs to be accorded the respect it deserves. Even the people that are moving and mobilizing very much so, and they look like they're winning financially, it's all due to hip hop. So I think, pay hip hop some respect. And I know I touched on Reason earlier on, now being Caesar Alakai. The hits they have, they're written by who? Somebody from hip hop. So I love hip hop. I love and I treasure SA hip hop. I appreciate everyone. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of SA hip hop producers. There's no saying I love all of them. Like, I treasure each one of them. Each one of them. They've all had their era and they've all given us hits. Yo, I'm a fan. From rappers to producers, I gravitate towards loving producers a lot because I always feel like it's a different type of level of genius to construct music from thin air. And I appreciate the singers and the rappers, etc., because they're interpreters of sound. They get to screw and be very intelligent with the words. But to make music out of thin air, please, you are Mozart, okay? And have had to have had these marvelous experiences. It is the most beautiful feeling. And the people I collaborated with as well at some point, like, it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful journey. That's how much I love music. That's how much I treasure SA hip hop. That's how much I treasure the culture of hip hop. And I will continue to fly the flag high and advocate for it, even moving forward. I see a lot that is happening in the scape of new kids coming. And believe it or not, I'm a fan of these new kids as well. The new era of kids, wait. I can't wait to show off with them because they are amazing. And it's not only with rappers and producers, but even DJs. Like, I'm learning of new creators in the space, DJs that I want to associate with people I'm learning from. It's just, I'm an O, I'm a fan, and I am so glad I got thrown into this life. I always say, should I die? Should I die? Music is the only thing I will miss. So that's been my journey with music, and it's still ongoing. I believe in this lifetime, my self-defined purpose is orientated around music, but not limited to it, of course. But the core of it does stem from music, and I look forward to seeing what many more things I can achieve through God's permission, allowance. There are many more experiences I've had. There are a couple more people I did not mention that I've worked with, or I am acquainted to, or I have a very strong relationship with. There are a lot more artists I've listened to and have been a great influence on me. I just haven't had the space. If I had to go through the entire history of my musical journey and influences, it wouldn't end because I consumed a lot of music and I've had a lot of experiences. These were just a few of the monumental moments I could highlight, but I've had even a couple more monumental moments. I've had a couple more influences. This pretty much highlights and summarizes my musical journey. So that's my journey as in music, and I've been yearning to go back into creative music than me being involved in the pushing of other people's craft, which I've done for so many years, and now I'm reverting back to being a creative again. And but this time around, I've been, what can I say, assessing what's the best route to take in terms of launching. I don't necessarily want to be a music performer, like a performing artist, and stand in front of people and perform and sing or rap or no. And so through my cousin's influence, because she launched into being a DJ, and I was like, I could actually do that because I love music. I don't only like creating music, but I love consuming music and playing it too. So I could just learn the skill of DJing. So I could just go into that as well. And I did. So I took myself to DJing school. Hence, we are where we are today, where I'm about to launch as a DJ, but I'll be launching as a DJ and artist. The musical project is still in the process of making. I've been meeting a lot of hurdles there in terms of production, and I'm hoping to make it happen. I genuinely want to see it actualize because I've done the nitty-gritty parts, setting out the paperwork, making sure I'm positioned correctly, and everything. And now it's for me to create the product and then getting the product out there as I have, intended. Like I said, they sent me the poetry collection, they sent me the visual series, which you find on Patreon, on TikTok series, on Close Friends, and on Facebook group. This is just me narrating a lot of my experiences that I got to learn my quarter life crisis, and as of recent. And I intend to now create Semi the musical experience, which I've been writing for, but I've had to start from scratch again. And through a terrifically bad breakup, and I'm one person who gets very affected by my breakup. So unfortunately, when I was going through that other one bad breakup, listen, I've never had a good breakup, okay? I've had all they've all been horrific. That's why I just quit dating. During that time when I was going through that breakup, I lost my phone in an Uber because I zoned out. When I'm under a lot of stress, I deassociate. So that's how I lost my phone. And unfortunately, that phone had a lot of my musical recordings. So I'm one person, when melody comes to my head, I need to record it there and then so I don't forget it. And then build up. That's literally my process of songwriting. And then I'll give it to a producer to construct, composition around it. And I had quite a lot of material on there, but it got lost. And the unfortunate part is I hadn't at that time period backed up everything on my cloud. So I was able to retrieve some things when I got a new phone, but not necessarily my voice recordings because they were not backed up on cloud. Unfortunate. The little fortune was that some of the recordings I had published on my socials at that time, they're now archived, by the way, so you won't find them. So I still have references of about 2 songs. And yeah, I've been struggling to try and find a good producer to work with because it seems like everybody's preoccupied, especially with some genre I wouldn't mention, seeming to boom so much that people are paying attention to that, which irritates my guts. Anyway, whoever is listening to this, and if you're a producer and you'd like to work with me, hit me up. My email is open for that. Send me production. Let me know what you're about. I have published before that I'm looking for beats, but I didn't necessarily push it like that. And the way I write music, getting sourcing beats wouldn't necessarily work for me. I'm more the type of I write, I build melodies, and I want a producer to build composition around that, and then we continue to putting together the song. Yeah, and that's my process. So it can get really tough. I want somebody that I can build good chemistry with, and we can literally sit and have a studio camp and we produce and we put together the music. That would be a beautiful experience that I'm down for. So I do hope I do get that soon. But that's not my major concentration right now. It's just for me to launch as a DJ, and then we can start doing these other studio things. But yeah, that is my ode to music. So that is to say, music for me has been a friend, a healer, a companion, and has been my voice. And I am voiceless. And I know a lot of people who music has done a great deal for them. Again, it also depends what kind of frequencies you expose yourself to. I always tell people be very careful of what you consume, because music is very scientific and very spiritual. And just as much as it does good, there could be bad done with it too. But I'm talking about the good, because I'm about the good, and this is my experience. I am here today because of music. Music got me through my tough times. Music healed me, and a lot of realizations about either myself or the next person or the world and how it works. As during the periods I was listening to music, and epiphanies would visit me, and or I would find the voice of God while I'm listening to music. It doesn't necessarily have to be quote unquote spiritual music, even secular music that speaks to themes that you are currently in that phase, and you get to understand quite a lot of things. And it has been of great healing and great companionship and great direction and inspiration. I know a couple of weeks back, a brother and friend published on his TikTok, Hakim Anderson. You guys might know him as Flex Boogie. He goes by Hakim Anderson now. Published on his TikTok that music is not therapy, and it was a very controversial thing for him to publish. And I understood where he's coming from, but for someone who's experienced music differently, I beg to differ. I understood when he was saying that whether you use music as therapy, you still have to go to therapy. You still have to go see that professional that's going to help you through stuff and help you actualize and guide you. But not many people afford that. And sometimes that method doesn't necessarily work for a person, but music would speak to them highly. But of course, the therapy is something you must do. You must do. It's something mandatory, especially for your journey in this lifetime in terms of your health and those that are around you, so that you do not bleed on other people, so that you grow healthily, you relate healthily and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, music has been therapy, but I will not say that I have done music solely as therapy. I've also gone to therapy. I do go to therapy. I have my own psychologist and psychiatrist. People I see. I have my own community of friends that are my counsel, as well as my family. But however, music is also part of that. That's why it's a very powerful frequency that is used in so many ways to heal, to free, to express, to praise, and all the lot. So that is my ode to music, and that's why I got this tattoo. And shout out to you, my dear friend Malindi, that you once said to me and suggested that I should make an ode to music. This is an ode to music. It might not be poetry or a song as yet, but this is my life journey, and I'm so grateful to God for this amazing blessing, because a lot stemmed from it. I got to go places, experience things, experience people, and I learned a lot. I grew a lot, experienced a lot, and not just in terms of life in general, but even about myself. That's what music has afforded me. Anyway, that's it from me to you. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.